Welcome back to Vintage Noise. Today, we're looking at a car that, it really set a standard for decades. We're talking about the Mercedes-Benz W123, built from 1976 right through to 1986.
Yeah, this model is it's iconic for Mercedes-Benz in that mid-range executive class. And the production numbers alone tell a story. Over its run, they built, what was it, over 2.69 million of them.
2.69 million. Wow.
Exactly. It blew past its predecessor, the W114.
Yeah.
Made it the most successful Mercedes they'd ever produced up to that point.
And that popularity, it created this instant frenzy almost, didn't it? Right from the start.
Oh, absolutely.
I read that the demand was so high, you were looking at a 9 to 12-month wait if you ordered one new. That's quite a delay.
It was huge. And that scarcity, it immediately fueled a black market right there in Germany. People were so eager to get their hands on one to skip that wait that slightly used W123s were selling for about 5,000 Deutschmarks, more than the list price.
5,000 marks extra for a used one, just to have it now. That really shows people knew it was something special, right? More than just the badge.
Yeah.
So what was driving that? What was the core appeal?
I think it boils down to two things, really. Reliability and just solid engineering. The W123's durability, it's legendary. It wasn't just well-built. It felt like it was engineered to last forever.
Right.
Especially, think about the taxis in Germany. It was common for those cars, especially the diesels, to hit 500,000 kilometers, maybe more, with only minor stuff needing attention. It was almost expected.
500,000 kilometers as just normal service life. That's incredible. And that toughness, that reputation, it gave them a whole second life, didn't it?
It really did. Once they'd done their hard miles in Europe, they weren't just scrapped. They were highly sought after, often shipped out to Africa, other places with, let's say, challenging roads.
Because they could take the punishment.
Exactly. They could handle rough conditions, didn't need constant fiddly maintenance, and the parts were tough. They were just built for the long haul, anywhere in the world.
And Mercedes gave you plenty of engine choices to keep them hauling. They used some carryover engines from the older W114 and W115s.
That's right. Proven units already.
Yeah.
But if you look at what people actually bought, what really stands out is how dominant the diesel models were.
Yeah, the numbers are striking there.
For sure. The single most popular model built was the 240D 455,000 of just that one. Then the 200D with nearly 380,000. The W123 basically cemented the reputation of the Mercedes four-cylinder diesel globally.
Okay, so rugged mechanicals, dominant diesels. Let's shift gears to the looks, the styling. It was an update of the W114, clearly, but you can see hints of the bigger S-Class, the W116, right? Those wider rib taillights, for example.
Definitely. There's a clear family resemblance. But the design philosophy itself, that's maybe the most interesting part. It was very deliberate.
How so?
Well, the chief engineer, Hans Scherenberg, he talked about aiming for a balanced, dynamic, non-aggressive form. They focused on horizontal lines, and this is key, avoiding fashionable gimmicks.
No fashionable gimmicks. That almost sums up the W123, doesn't it? That focus on timelessness over trends.
Precisely. It was about engineering integrity showing through, not just flashy design. And even though the look was maybe conservative, the platform itself was incredibly versatile.
Right.
Look at all the body styles they offered.
Right. You had the standard four-door, the saloon, the W123 itself.
Then in '77, they brought out the coupe, the C123. And it's worth noting, that wasn't just the saloon with two fewer doors.
No. How's it different?
It had a significantly shorter wheelbase. 2,710 millimeters compared to 2,795 for the saloon. Gave it quite distinct, tighter proportions.
Okay, shorter for the coupe, but they went the other way too.
Oh, yes. The limousine, the V123, they stretched the wheelbase way out to 3,425 millimeters, properly massive. Designed for 7 or 8 passengers, for hotels or official use.
And then the big one, historically speaking, the Estate, the S123.
Huge deal. Because that was Mercedes-Benz's first factory-built estate car. Ever. Introduced at the Frankfurt show in '77.
So before that, if you wanted a Merc wagon, it was custom coachwork only. Launching their own factory version on the W123 platform, that shows immense confidence. What did the T stand for again?
Tourismus and transport. Tourism and transport. Covered everything, really. Family holidays, carrying loads. Very practical.
And the platform's flexibility didn't end there, did it? They even offered that bare chassis version.
Yeah, the F123. That was specifically for specialist builders, companies like Benz or Meesen, to create things like ambulances, hearses. Mercedes provided the tough, reliable base.
It's pretty remarkable. One platform underpinning everything from emergency vehicles to, well, wasn't there an unofficial convertible too?
Oh, yeah. There were a few aftermarket conversions. Crayford in the UK did one called the St. Tropez. Imagine taking this incredibly solid, maybe slightly stayed German saloon and just cutting the roof off for cruising.
Speaks volumes about the underlying strength of the chassis, I guess. It could handle it.
It really does. And technically, the W123 wasn't just about being tough. It had some quiet innovations, too. Probably the biggest technical leap came a bit later in its life.
Which was,
The introduction of the OM617A engine. That was the world's first turbocharged diesel engine offered in a passenger car.
okay, the first turbo diesel passenger car engine. That's a major milestone.
Absolutely. Showed up first in Europe, around 79 or 80, in the 300 TD turbo diesel estate. Gave it a serious power boost. We'll circle back to why that engine became even more important later.
And even smaller things, right? I remember reading about special engine mounts.
Yeah, that's a classic W123 detail. On some engines, they weren't just mounted with rubber blocks, but also had tiny shock absorbers fitted to the mounts themselves
Little shock absorbers for the engine. Why?
to damp out even more vibration. Just to make the ride that little bit smoother, quieter. It's that kind of obsessive incremental engineering for refinement, not for show.
That engineered luxury feeling. But all that German engineering focus ran into a bit of a wall when it came to selling the car in North America, didn't it? Starting around 77.
Oh, definitely. The U.S. market is where the W123 story really diverges. To meet the regulations over there from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the DOT, Department of Transportation Mercedes, had to make what they called extensive changes.
And you could see those changes immediately. The big one was the bumpers, right?
Yep. Massive 5-mile-per-hour impact bumpers, front and rear, totally changed the look. And often, the sleek European rectangular headlights had to go, replaced by the big, round, sealed beam units that DOT mandated back then. Made them look, well, heavier.
And they literally were heavier, weren't they, because of all the emissions gear needed for the EPA?
Exactly. Catalytic converters, lower compression ratios for the gas engines, EGR systems, all that added weight, at least 100 kilograms more than the European versions.
100 kilos is significant. That must have hurt performance, especially on the gasoline models.
It did, quite badly. Take the top gasoline engine, the 280E. In Europe, it made a healthy 185 PS German horsepower, the US version. With all the emissions controls, it was down to maybe 137, 142 horsepower.
Wow, that's nearly a 50 horsepower drop, combined with the extra weight.
Yeah, it made the US gasoline W123s feel noticeably less sprightly. But Mercedes found a sort of loophole, or maybe a sweet spot, with their diesel engines.
How so? The regulations were different.
Less strict for diesels at the time, yes.
Yeah.
So when they introduced that turbo diesel engine, the OM617A, into the U.S. market, it offered performance that suddenly felt really strong compared to the somewhat strangled gasoline engines.
Ah, so the turbo diesel became the performance option in the US, ironically.
Pretty much. It was such a game changer over there that Mercedes actually stopped selling the 280E Saloon and the 280CE Coupe in the U.S. after 1982. The turbo diesel models, the 300 CD Coupe and the 300 TD Wagon, they became North American exclusives, basically, a direct result of adapting to those unique regulations.
Fascinating how regulations completely reshaped the car's lineup and reputation in one market. Okay, so beyond the US split, Mercedes kept refining the W123 throughout its life, right? These series updates.
Yes, typical Mercedes fashion. Incremental improvements. They talk about a second series starting around August 79, and then a third series from September 82.
And that third series, that's when some key features became standard.
Right, that's when those rectangular headlights, the ones that look a bit more modern, became standard across the range, not just on higher trims. And also, crucially, power steering became standard on all models.
A big comfort upgrade. But the later years also saw some major safety advancements, didn't they? Mercedes was really pushing things there.
Way ahead of the curve. ABS, the anti-lock braking system, became an option as early as August 1980. Think about that, 1980.
Very early for ABS. And then airbags.
Even more impressive. From September 1982, you could option a driver's airbag. It came bundled with seatbelt pretensioners for the passenger, too. In the early 80s, airbags were practically unheard of, outside of maybe a few ultra-luxury experiments. For Mercedes to offer it on the W123 was huge.
It really highlights their commitment to safety. No wonder the reviews were so positive back then. Didn't it win an award from Motor Trend?
It did. Motor Trend Import Car of the Year for 1977. Reviewers consistently praised that mixed the sophisticated engineering, the build quality, and these advanced safety features. They even mentioned things like the diagonally bending steering column.
Explain that. What did it do?
Simple concept, really clever execution. In a bad front-end crash, the column was designed to collapse and actually bend sideways, away from the driver, instead of being pushed straight back. A potentially life-saving detail, going beyond just meeting regulations.
So safe, built like a tank,
Yeah.
but reviewers also picked up on its, let's say its functional character. I love that line from Car and Driver.
Which one was that?
They said the car almost seems to dramatize the fact that it is a car, a pleasant comfort car, but a car nonetheless, not a boudoir.
Huh. Yes, I remember that. It perfectly captures it, doesn't it? It wasn't about soft cushions and fake wood trim. The luxury was in the engineering, the feeling of solidity and competence.
Exactly. And that fundamental competence led to some surprising results elsewhere too, like motorsport.
Right, you wouldn't think of the W123 as a rally car, but a 280E actually won the 1977 London-Sydney Marathon. An absolutely brutal 17,500-mile endurance rally proved the car could basically survive anything.
Incredible. So wrapping up, the W123 really did define its decade, didn't it? It became the benchmark for quality, reliable transport worldwide, sold in the millions, pioneered safety tech like ABS and airbags, and did everything from being a taxi to winning rallies.
Its legacy is just immense. That reputation for being almost indestructible means you still see them in regular use all over the world, decades after the last one rolled off the line in 1986. I think the key takeaway is how that deliberate, conservative, long-term design philosophy, the one that avoided those fashionable gimmicks, ultimately proved more successful and enduring than maybe flasher cars of the time.
Which brings us back to that core idea from Scherenberg, and maybe a final thought for you listening. Given how the W123 outlasted nearly all its contemporaries, does that kind of long-view engineering, the kind that avoids big stylistic jumps, actually create a deeper, more lasting kind of appeal than maybe raw horsepower or trendy design ever could? Something to ponder next time you see one of these timeless machines still cruising down the road.